Are we ready for them? Yasmeen Al-Sharaf, Director of Fintech and Innovation Unit, Central Bank of Bahrain, Mohammed. Sabri Issa, are you out there? Regional Manager, Middle East, Chainalysis? Chainalysis. I like how you did that. Nice fusion right there. Welcome to the stage. Can we get a round of applause for everyone, please? Let's get the energy and the tempo back up. And Tony Petrov, Chief Legal Officer, SumSub. Now, as for the discussion, it's going to be moderated by Yiannos Ashiotis. Managing Director, GRC Partners, please come to the stage.
Okay, so good morning. Thank you for sticking around. Generally after talking about investments in fintech, we're going to be talking about an area which is not so much covered, even though it's pretty much the unsung hero, and I believe it's one of the reasons why fintech was able to take off and why it has slowly started to become part of the mainstream economy and mainstream financial services. So RegTech, regulatory technology, is an evolution of an existing painful requirement for financial institutions, a requirement for compliance. And basically, we have assembled here a group of expert panelists just to give us their insights about this very interesting industry. And we also have Yasmeen, that from the part of the regulator is going to be shedding some light on how the regulator is seeing these RegTech companies and how much comfort basically the regulator can place on the implementation of these technologies in financial services firms. So with Yasmeen being the only lady on the board as well, on the panel, we're going to be starting with the first question. And the question is, having such a fast and rapid adoption of RegTech in the financial sector, how is a regulator adapting its framework to have the ability to oversee and validate these new technologies and to ensure that they're going to be working effectively?
First of all, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Yiannos. It's indeed a very interesting topic, RegTech. As you know, the fintech has been changing the whole financial landscape, posing both opportunities and challenges to regulators and to existing financial entities alike. RegTech, or regulatory technology, is a growing branch of fintech. It's basically harnessing evolving technologies, big data, to be able to achieve better compliance as well as risk management, right? Now, with the rapid increase in adoption of RegTech, we as regulators have had to take a pause, and we are starting to realize that it's important that we assess and monitor these solutions very closely, get to understand them, get more visibility on the solutions out there and how they work, for a number of reasons. First of all, we need to ensure that those solutions, first of all, lead to, I would say, correct outcomes. So, we wouldn't want a RegTech solution that will lead to non-compliance, for instance, right? So we need visibility on how it works. Let's assume a bank is, for instance, using a RegTech solution to calculate prudential regulations, capital adequacy, liquidity ratios. We want to get the assurance that, first of all, the data that is being used is unbiased. We need visibility on how the solution works and that they are reflecting the correct metrics of the ratio, right? We also need to make sure that these solutions are resilient, that they are safe, that they don't infringe on any personal data privacy laws, and that they keep up and reflect all the relevant regulations and legislations. So not only regulations that are issued by the central bank, but other relevant regulations, such as the personal development, the personal data privacy law, for instance, in the Kingdom of Bahrain, right? So with this notion in mind, globally, regulators have started to look at the space. We are seeing different approaches currently being undertaken by regulators. Various regulators have started to issue guiding principles to kind of govern how these solutions are deployed. and how they are operated. We're starting to see a number of regulators as well starting to test, running pilots, taking part in tech sprints and hackathons to get the feel of these solutions. There has also been a lot of talk amongst regulators on whether there is a need to come up with some kind of certification mechanism, for instance, right? When we look at Bahrain, as you may know, we have been pioneers in the fintech arena, supported by our visionary leadership. My role as the director of fintech and innovation at the central bank, one of my key objectives is to support the leadership at the central bank to ensure that our financial institutions adopt these emerging technologies. We want to ensure that our financial institutions, stay ahead of the game, not only locally, but globally as well, to reinforce Bahrain's position as a leading innovative financial center, right? So we have been promoting and encouraging the use of advanced technologies to advance our financial services sector to get a frog leap towards the future. When speaking of RegTech specifically, we have encouraged our licensees to start looking at these solutions. We've issued some regulations and guiding principles that require licensees to start adopting systems in place that will help them to meet their compliance requirements, AML, CFT requirements. For instance, one of the requirements that will be issued very soon is to mandate licensees to implement automated real-time transaction monitoring systems. And this is not only for traditional financial institutions like banks or investment firms, but it's also for other, more kind of fintech-related licensees, such as crypto asset service providers. So we're also requiring them to start implementing blockchain-based monitoring tools to kind of monitor the transactions associated with their listed crypto assets, for instance. We also issued regulations to support digital onboarding, the use of eKYC. We have regulations on cybersecurity and the required systems and solutions that must be maintained. We also an important area that we focus on is ensuring that our licensees have the necessary and the relevant guiding principles and policies in place that are governed by senior management or at a board level, to ensure that these solutions, again, are governed well and that they are deployed safely and tested and validated. We also like to see our licensees start to employ or advance the skill sets within their kind of human capital. We want to see employees with the relevant talent to handle these solutions. For instance, we have a requirement on licensees to appoint CISOs or Chief Information Security Officers. So I think this is an evolving space. I am very keen to see financial institutions in Bahrain to start to take rapid strides in adopting these technologies to help them in their regulatory compliance, exercises. We at the central bank, as a regulator, we're also starting to explore advanced technologies that will help us better conduct our supervision and oversight, which is known as SubTech. And once we do acquire these solutions, we wouldn't want our financial industry to not measure up to the regulator, right? So we hope it's going to incentivize them to adopt these solutions.
That's very interesting. And it's actually very refreshing to see that you have a regulator that's actually in front when it comes to adoption, when it comes to fintech and RegTech, because usually, from our experience, especially in Europe, the regulator is always lagging behind. So, I mean, it's really refreshing for us to see that in Bahrain, at least the regulator is very well aware of RegTech and the implementations and basically how it can support, and it's at the forefront giving active guidance to regulated entities. So I'm sure that this is something which is going to be very well blended within the existing framework in the financial services sector. And you mentioned that starting with AML, because I guess that traditionally AML has been the most important thing when we're talking about compliance in regulated entities. And we're happy to have with us here Mr. Tony Petrov, who's the Chief Legal Officer for SumSub, which is a digital onboarding effectively RegTech. So Tony, talking about modern AML solutions, um, how do you think that these RegTech systems um, can differentiate themselves in terms of not only the speed? I think that's pretty much self-explanatory, but in terms of accuracy and adaptability in a changing financial services environment.
Yeah, I mean, if you work locally in one country, obviously your situation is much better, and maybe some of the global AML solutions are not very necessary for you, except, for example, for such things as well check that in itself is a global solution, and you need to use it in any case. But when you are a global service, when you have a client base from all around the globe, yeah, and you have like thousands of clients coming to you every day. This will be absolutely impossible to work without AML solutions and RegTech solutions. Um, Such things as, for example, language. This is quite easy to maybe explanatory to a certain extent, but in real life, it's really complicated to process documents from all around the globe if you don't have certain technological solutions, AI technologies, etc., etc. Things like transliteration, for example. Let's say names can be written in different ways, and then if you don't write the name in the correct way, for example, then you have problems checking this name against for example, Refinitiv, World Check, etc., etc. So things like that are very important, and without RegTech solutions, it will be impossible to do it. But on the other hand, you have things in which RegTech solutions are just indispensable. For example, let's say right now we have MiCA in Europe, and general travel rule is one of the very important parts of the global economy issues right now. And without RegTech, it's just impossible to process transactions in the correct way, in a compliant way, without having RegTech solutions on board. You need to verify the VASP. You need to verify the virtual asset service provider. You need to verify the user. You need to have a protocol to exchange the data. You cannot do it without RegTech solutions. And finally, of course, the fraud. I mean, that's the obvious problem right now. If you look at the global markets, some websites are offering what is called the ID kits. This basically means you have a passport, you have a driving license, you have the proof of address of the person, all in the same kit. Why? It's not taken from the person, in some bad way. The person just sold this document because I mean, identity right now is as an asset that you can sell, and that's a big problem. And in order to work with such cases of fraud, when you have, let's say, thousands of ID kits that are sold at, I don't know, $10 each, you need RegTech solutions. So I would say these things are important to think about when you are a global business and you have a global clientele. And that's why you need RegTech solutions. That's why you need technologies to work with these clients. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And as if AML by itself wasn't enough. I mean, nowadays
Uh-huh.
you're talking about financial institutions that kind of started incorporating cryptocurrencies into the mix. So basically, crypto is inevitably becoming. I'm not going to call it currency because, as you just mentioned, MiCA is coming about, and for the first time, I guess there's no other regulation in place. But with the implementation of MiCA in the European Union, we're finally going to be having a pretty well segmented identification of what crypto is, because you're going to have cryptos as currencies, cryptos as assets, cryptos as financial instruments. But in any case, these are tokens of value in any different way that you might see. Then any kind of method of value can inherently be used for illegitimate purposes. So crypto is definitely one of the issues that should be should be of interest to RegTech and to regulators in the coming years. And I guess that this implementation was very much in kind of a status of a gray area because nobody exactly knew how to regulate it. How do I treat it? How do I investigate? And this is why we have companies with, I don't know if Chainalysis was the first one that started offering blockchain analysis and transaction monitoring and wallet investigation, but it's definitely one of the biggest ones right now. So the next question is for Mohammed. So how do you think that RegTech has pretty much transformed the landscape of crypto analysis and the acceptance of crypto into the mainstream financial services landscape? And how can it support and to what extent the identification of fraudulent transactions or the flagging of quote unquote dirty wallets? How is RegTech supporting that sector?
Okay, first, good afternoon, lovely people of Bahrain. I'm very happy to be here today and thank you for joining us. So, for whoever doesn't know about Chainalysis, we are a blockchain analytics company. We work with government entities like law enforcement, central banks, and regulators globally and locally. So yes, to answer your question, let's go a little bit back. I will ask you two questions, and I promise you I will answer also two questions from your side. So first question, how many here from traditional finance or banking? Okay. How many from crypto native company? It's either exchange. Okay, great. So to answer your question, just let's go back a few steps to get an understanding about what is the difference. Of course, there's a huge difference, but we pick up just 1 or 2 points. So in traditional finance, you need to have a bank account to start interacting. That means that the bank will have a responsibility to get the KYC. You have the data of the customer. But actually in crypto, it's not like that. Anybody can create what we call a wallet. And you can bring a kid, 14 years old, sit him in front of the computer. He will generate for you 100 wallets a day. And by doing that, he can move the fund from different wallet. I mean, if you want it as illicit activity. But in traditional finance, it's very hard for me to do that. Next to impossible. I cannot come to your bank and open 100 bank account without KYC. But at the same time, the most beauty thing in crypto that it is transparent. It's not because Chainalysis, the whole technology, it is transparent. So each and every transaction that we're having, it's registered on a blockchain that our grandkids gonna see every transaction that we're doing. But still, there are lots of illicit activity happening in the blockchain. Unfortunately, that illicit actors, they still love crypto because the easy of movement. And that's where we come in. Crypto, I cannot talk more. You have, I believe, as a bank approach by different exchanges, different crypto native company, and they're constantly shouting, not only tell you about the benefit of crypto. And we do believe that we're seeing today only 1% of what DeFi and crypto can add to our life. And that's why different government also are initiating CBDC, which is kind of a blockchain strategy going forward in the future. So going back to the point of the transaction and how can we help in that part working with law enforcement and regulator. So as I mentioned, bad actor, they take use of how it's easy to transfer crypto assets. And that's why we don't only check wallets. So what we do is, to make it very simple, we can look into your purse and we can understand where did you get that money from? Who touched it before? In fiat, I cannot take a look into your cash and I cannot understand where did you get this money from. And that's exactly what we do. We leave we check the wallet, but we follow the crypto asset itself. We understand the movement, where it has been traveled. And of course, we're working very closely with law enforcement. In different cases, 3 or 4 law enforcement working together to investigate and directly using the platform as a way to flag any transaction that is related to illicit activity. And by doing that, the VASP and the exchange and the crypto native company, they understand where this money coming from. Should I proceed with the transaction or should I block it? And that will build a very positive impact in the ecosystem because, first of all, it's not only about the local regulations that we might affect us. There are OFAC, there are FATF, there is international organization that they can sanction different wallets, and it doesn't matter the location. So I'm based out of Dubai, and we have different cases that you get a company getting directly sanctioned by OFAC because they're involved in transaction with some Putin friends, for example, and that happened a few months ago, and constantly for different cases. So it's not only about the local regulations, international, we need to make sure that we have the proper system in place when it comes to understanding where this money coming, and at the same time, where is it leading to? If I come today to a bank and I want to withdraw $1 million from you, you might give it to me. I will tell you I buy an apartment or a car. But if I leave the airport, the customer will stop me. Where are you taking that $1 million to? But in crypto, you can transfer anywhere. And that's why it's very important that you understand where this asset even leaving as a crypto native company or exchange, and also as a bank. Who are those exchanges that you are working with? Are they have the proper solution, and they're regulated, and they have the proper system in place?
Okay, thank you. And then that's actually a very interesting point, and I totally agree with you that even though crypto has this bad reputation that it allows criminals to hide money, I believe that with crypto, it's inherently impossible to hide the money, because effectively you always have a trace, you always have the audit trail of where the money came from, of where the cryptos came from, where they went, where they stopped, where they were accumulated in tumblers, or tumbler is basically a sort of a generic wallet where criminals might just throw it. It's like a pooled, it's like an omnibus digital wallet where they will try and put it all together so they can separate to hide the origins. But in any case, I believe that you're absolutely right that with crypto and the right tools, you always have the ability to trace where the money came from. And I think that this should give a lot of more comfort to the regulators and to the public as well. And talking about trust and confidence of the public, Yasmeen, how do you feel that from a regulator's perspective, that the integration of RegTech into the financial services sector impacts the overall trust and confidence in the market, especially when it comes to protecting consumer rights and consumer interests? Do you think that this is something that enhances the confidence and allows people to be more comfortable trading?
Well, that's a subjective kind of question. I personally believe that if these solutions are implemented and governed efficiently, yes, they have a lot of opportunity to promote trust, confidence within the financial sector. They also have huge opportunities to kind of enhance and promote financial stability, right? For a number of reasons. Like when deployed efficiently, these solutions can help financial entities to keep up with the updated regulations in a timely manner, to identify whether they are facing any regulatory compliance gaps and address them timely. As I alluded to earlier, it allows them also to kind of keep a close eye on fraudulent activities, anomalies, and kind of put in place quick actions to kind of deal with that. So all in all, yes, there's a lot of potential that these solutions can bring to foster more confidence and to kind of strengthen the resilience of the financial services sector, right? Um, I also think that they may not only help the financial institutions, they can also support us as financial regulators by providing us with more data visibility. I think those solutions can play to allow us as regulators to have better oversight on the operations of the licensed entities, which will allow us in turn to put in place, corrective, customized regulatory actions as and when required. But those solutions don't come without their challenges, right? Going back to Tony's point earlier, there's a question of scalability. There's an issue of scalability, specifically when a financial institution is operating globally across more than one jurisdiction. They may have to comply with a host of different regulations, a host of different legislations. So those solutions must be configured in a way to capture those different, requirements. Data is a very important aspect. It's important that the quality of data is, they pay a lot of attention to the quality of data, and that the data is unbiased as well, to ensure that the solutions produce, actual, precise kind of directions or results. So I think that in order for us to leverage on the opportunities of these solutions, regulators must put in place governing guidelines to ensure that the solutions are tested frequently, that they are updated. They may also need to be kind of validated by independent third-party consultants or experts as and when required.
Absolutely. Those are very interesting points. Absolutely. And the validation is something that I've seen also in the region, regulators taking an active approach towards that. And again, that definitely entails a seriousness in the approach of fintech and regtech. But however, it also means that the regulators are now forced to evolve themselves and make sure that the people within the regulator have the ability, have the knowledge. And I know firsthand that this is usually difficult because whenever you talk about regulators, you're talking about governmental entities, and I don't care in which country in the world you are, a governmental entity, it's always going to be slow moving, and it's always going to have people that have been working there for 25 years, and it's difficult for them to adapt. And I know this is like a kind of a curveball question, but how do you deal with that?
Actually, in Bahrain, the scene has been a little bit different. We, as the regulators, we have been moving a step ahead of the industry and kind of pushing the industry towards innovation. And I'd like to take the opportunity today, and say again that I'm very keen to see our financial entities adopting those RegTech solutions, because we at the regulatory level are looking into investing into solutions, supervisory technology solutions, and they're going to be put in a situation where they'll have to measure up to us, or they'll have to be forced to actually invest in these solutions.
And another point, I'm sorry I'm picking on you, but it's not often that I have a regulator in front of me, so I'm just going to make the best of the situation. The other question is about data. You mentioned before that data is a very important point, fact of the RegTech implementations. However, for RegTech to work effectively, it means that you need to gather as much data as possible. So is the issue of data privacy coming into play here? And
100%. Data privacy is one of our priorities, and it's at the forefront of our kind of vision and regulatory kind of action. With the evolving technologies, we're starting to see things such as data lakes, like central repositories of the data out there. But we with the Central Bank of Bahrain, we are very strict when it comes to infringing on personal data. We've already passed a legislation in Bahrain, the Personal Data Privacy Law, which is equivalent to the GDPR in the UK. And all of our regulations are, in line with the provisions of that legislation.
okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And the next question is also a follow up on something that was mentioned before by Yasmeen, that and this is for Tony, that AML regulations, even though there's pretty much a common platform, a common framework for the AML regulations, however, there are specific requirements in different jurisdictions, and in many times, and even in Europe, even in one jurisdiction, you might have different requirements for a CASP or a VASP, a crypto asset service provider or virtual asset service provider, however you want to call it, different requirements from the financial services regulator, different requirements from from the central bank, and so you have that, and then you have fintechs or any other kind of financial institutions that might operate in different jurisdictions as well. So basically, how do you tailor these solutions? I mean, how do you make sure that you kind of customize and calibrate a RegTech solution to cater to different circumstances, and how do you deal with those challenges?
Yeah, just to make it very specific, for example, in Germany, what is required is there are a number of ways how you can verify a person, but one of the ways is what is called the video interview with the operator, where basically you need to have a call center somewhere in Berlin or Dresden, for example, and the cost of this procedure is around 10 euros. As compared, for example, with maybe 10, maybe 15, right? 10, 15. In any case, it's that amount more or less. If you compare it with the general flow, which is used in most jurisdictions, where you have a liveness detection of the face, biometrics, and the ID document, this is around maybe 1 to 3 euros, something like that. So if you scale it up to, let's say, hundreds of thousands of clients, that's a lot of money. And it's not just a lot of money. It's also the problem that in some countries the clients are not prepared to have a long procedure of verification. There are a lot of jurisdictions where the requirements are very much different from each other, and on that you also have privacy regulations where you need to localize data. For example, in some jurisdictions, you need to collect the data in specific jurisdiction. For example, you cannot collect it somewhere; you need to collect it in this jurisdiction. My son is 4 years old, and so I'm dealing a lot with what is called the Lego, Lego kits. And so the difference of Lego with if you compare it with other things is that there my son or the kid can, for example, you have a Batmobile, for example, the automobile for Batman. You can rebuild it for, let's say, helicopter, right? If you have details. So basically, the current RegTech providers, they work kind of like a Lego. So you have different modules you can switch on, switch off. You have different data providers. You have different infrastructure in different countries. So you can kind of like tailor the flow for the specific jurisdiction and for the specific client. This is the only way how it can be done. Of course, the main problem here is that the privacy regulations and the AML regulations are sometimes clashing very much. And I invite you to look at some materials, for example, that Vitalik Buterin is writing right now about the equilibrium that is sought between the privacy and the AML regulation, how to build it. For example, for crypto, in crypto you have decentralized solutions, for example. Decentralized solutions cannot collect data, but they have to collect data because otherwise they are not compliant with AML compliance. Maybe in the future, maybe in 2, 3 years, we will see what is called self-sovereign solutions that will be able to identify the person without collecting so much data as is collected right now. We will not see. It will be very important to see the input of the regulators on that side, because obviously that's also a part of the problem, because the regulators right now are not looking from the regulator standpoint on the self-sovereign types of solutions. So we'll see what will be the future, but the answer is obviously that you need to have a scalable solution with many modules that you can switch on, switch off for the specific flow.
Okay. Absolutely. So basically, you need to have the ability to customize
Yes.
depending on the specific circumstances, right? And again, this is going to be a challenge by itself, because many of the times you're going to be having different types of regulators. And one of the good things about MiCA, I know that I'm talking a lot about MiCA. MiCA is a market in crypto assets, which is the European regulation on cryptocurrencies. And this is again significant because it's actually the first time that you have a widely accepted set of rules that are going to be governing crypto. And one of the provisions that MiCA brings, which wasn't evident before, is that whenever you have an institution or a crypto that is going to be significant, basically you're going to be moving. It's not going to be regulated by any single regulator in the European Union. We're going to be bringing in the regulation to a central level at the European Banking Authority. And effectively, we're going to be creating a group of regulators to make sure that we're going to be addressing everyone's concern. So it's going to be very important to see how this might be applied in other jurisdictions as well.
I think that's the single supervision kind of approach that
Yes,
the European Central Bank is taking, which is
yes.
very interesting.
It's going to be very interesting because for the first time they identify that borders are irrelevant. It's actually about the offering and how it affects people in a variety of jurisdictions. And again, it's going to be interesting to see the power play, because obviously right now in Europe, you have regulators that have different agendas and they have different approaches. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how that is going to be playing out. Um, and and of course, I have some other thoughts that I'm going to be sharing, but in regards to that and in regards to the approaches. But following on to that, for Mohammed, cryptocurrencies is something which is new. It's something which is volatile in the sense that, you talk about sometimes about massive amounts of money that can be transferred. You have a regulatory environment that takes as the basis, as a framework of regulation, that basically you have to look at the transaction history of the client. And traditionally in AML, you have the so-called typologies, right? So basically you have typologies, which is the red flags. I mean, for people working in the financial services sector, typologies are just red flags, which is basically previous instances where money laundering or illegal activities was flagged in organizations, and that forms the basis, the starting point for an investigation. Now, obviously, crypto is something new. And I don't think that we have a critical mass of historical um, identified fraudulent events. We definitely have a lot, but I don't think that we have the volume that we have in AML. So basically, in these kind of circumstances, as a RegTech company dealing with crypto, how do you make sure that you stay ahead? In regards to the analysis that you're providing? I mean, are you using AI? Are you using any other kind of predictive methodologies? Are you using traditional AML, red flags and typologies? How do you approach this?
Okay, so first let's go one, two steps, because we have our colleagues here from the financial sector. Let's differentiate again when it comes to crypto. So crypto, the money doesn't sleep. So there is no weekend. It's operational 24 hours. That means that I can transact with anyone that I want directly. That's the beauty of it. But at the same time, it's kind of risky because we have always to be ahead. And when it comes to understanding the illicit activity, we have a very strong team that they are engaged globally and locally with international entities and law enforcement. We're talking about OFAC, FATF, United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime, and the local law enforcement around the world. By doing that, we are, let's say, few steps ahead to understand the illicit activity that is related to a transaction. But that doesn't mean that those bad actors are always being caught or is caught now, because yes, there are different ways for them to succeed in current of transaction by simply interacting with an exchange that they don't have any tool or any way to screen the transaction that we already flagged, as you mentioned. So yes, the platform itself, giving it and offering it and working directly with the law enforcement who are able to flag it. And many cases, it's not only one jurisdiction and one law enforcement. We have different cases that we can work in a certain case with 4 different jurisdictions, with 4 different law enforcement. In traditional finance, you might find the related illicit activity coming after a few days. I mean the result, and that will give you that kind of flag if it's not few weeks. But in crypto now, and our partners using the system, even if it's still under investigation. So it's not yet finalized, but there are 3, 4 cases, let's say, of scam that we work with different law enforcement. You will find that flagged that there is investigation going on with this transaction or that wallet. That means that contact the law enforcement, and we are here as a bridge to communicate and to tell them exactly what is related to, if it's not yet finalized. But related to the historical data that we have, within each and every day as we speak now, there are investigations going on in crypto in different jurisdictions, and directly is there. We don't only rely on AI and machine learning. As we speak now, there is 1,500 crypto investigator using the system itself, analyzing it, and within seconds you get the result. So to make it very simple, you get the key of the government data. But by the way, the government, they want you to see this data. They want you to know that this transaction is coming from drugs, it's coming from the dark net, and it's constantly updated, even if it happened in the past. So for example, you can have a case of a darknet transaction that happened 6 months ago, and the result that of the investigation, it's just done now. It doesn't mean that the case has not been worked before, but the investigation just done now. In many cases, I have friends, they got involved in scam, for example, and some of them, they don't go to report it to the law enforcement. But the law enforcement, if they knew, okay, they will start doing their own investigation. Those cases, you can find that asset moving to an exchange, and the exchange proceed with the transaction as green because no one already informed them. So yes, it's very important that the private sector are really taking the initiative here and working also with the regulator to make sure that they are not involved even by mistake with any illicit activity.
Okay. Now, another question, and this is probably something that Yasmeen should be answering. Would the regulator be allowing blocking of the transactions? Or because I remember, I mean, traditionally, when it came to AML, most regulators will not urge, but basically they would prefer if the transaction was facilitated and then you report it as a suspicious transaction. Is it the same approach for crypto, or because of the velocity of the money and the transactions, this is an area where you prefer it to be blocked?
So we're following the similar approach when it comes to AML and CFT. That's one of our priorities. So we are depending on suspicious transaction reports as well, and there will be the similar mechanism that we are currently following.
So blocking it first, or allowing and then reporting?
So it's usually, first of all, we receive the reports, we analyze it, and once there's more determination, then we give the orders for it to be blocked.
Okay. Now, there is a factor that we didn't touch upon, right? We're talking about technology. However, is anyone here on the panel comfortable with allowing technology to just do its thing without any human intervention?
No. Honestly, no. Not 100%.
So,
The human element will always have to be there.
absolutely. So, I'm also going to ask a question. Do we have any people working compliance here in the audience? Not so many. I know it's not such a it's not an area that many people would be willing to go, even though it's a very interesting, very rewarding area to work in. However, in compliance, whoever works in compliance, it's going to tell you with 100% certainty that, you know what, no matter how many books you're going to be reading, no matter how many typologies you're going to be going through, no matter how much guidance from the FATF, at the end of the day, compliance is all about that feeling that you get when you kind of have a hunch that something is not exactly right. So my question is, and this is pretty much a philosophical question, will there ever be the ability of any RegTech, of any machine learning, of any AI system to kind of replicate this kind of understanding and this kind of a feeling to flag a transaction? My answer is no, but
I personally believe that nothing could replace human cognition. I think that technology will complement humans. They will work together, but there will no way they will not completely wipe out the need to have the human cognitive kind of assumptions, the thought.
totally agree. And I think this is a good point to kind of have a final remark by the other two panelists about the human factor and their importance in the parameterization and in the overseeing and the calibration and the adjustments of these systems. Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I will probably go down to the very easy basics of KYC. When you enter the border control, for example, here in Bahrain or elsewhere in the world, most of the officers there, they don't use just their human eyes in order to check whether or not the person on the document is the same person that is in front of the person of the officer. They have the specific technologies, biometric systems that check and give the scoring whether the person is the same or not. Obviously, this doesn't mean that, for example, this system will not be fooled by, let's say, twins, right? So sometimes, and we see this on YouTube when twins are trying to fool the systems of biometrics on the border controls. They gathered a lot of views, obviously. So there is always a lot of space for automation, but at the same time, this doesn't mean that the compliance officers will be without work, because what we are doing basically, we're just providing some instruments for them so that they would concentrate on more important things, not thinking about whether or not this person is alike as this person, but investigating the real serious problems. So we are helping the compliance officers to get rid of routine, but they should still be there to work on complex cases. This will be my comment.
Thank you. Mohammed?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, in Chainalysis, we have three value propositions. But one of the most important parts is actually that our data can stand in court. So take the example of we are mapping and flagging a certain illicit activity coming from your wallet related to drugs, for example. You cannot take that to court just based on AI. You need the human element. So I agree with Yasmeen that yes, it cannot rely 100% in AI, because we need the human element to confirm that part and to verify it, especially that we're talking about very sensitive information that might go to court and used with that. So we cannot blame it directly on AI. No, we need that human element. And there is one thing that I doing my master degree in money laundering with the University of Manchester, and they said the first thing is investigation is an art.
Yes.
So, and that's what we see from our team when they're doing investigation. So they take a wallet and they look at it. No, this wallet is not related to the darknet market. This wallet is much more for a money laundering for a terrorist group. Yeah, but how did you know? It's the same kind of amount and behavior of the transaction. No, because we have a feeling, because that's what they do. So yes, you can program the AI, but still the human element is important.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And it's a relief to know that at least us humans are going to be relevant for the next for the next few years at least.
Hi, thank you for the panelists. My question is specifically to Mohammed. First of all, I like your watch.
Oh, thank you, but I don't see you. Where are you?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. The second thing, to what extent can you go when it comes to chasing transactions? As we all know that the rise of Bitcoin was through Silk Road, and that was the pinnacle of illegal activity online. So one of the main things about cryptocurrency is decentralization. So if I can follow everything, something new will come up, and you're going to be always in a mouse and cat chase. So to what extent can you go? This is my question.
So yes, there are new technologies coming every day. As we speak, there is a new blockchain, there is a new token, there is a new privacy token coming, and at the same time, there are different tools like mixers. Even though that, as you know, that OFAC sanction can sanction mixers like Tornado Cash. But at the same time, yes, there are many ways that is coming to make it very hard for us to trace, especially that we're not talking about bunch of kids, hackers, sitting in a bedroom. We're talking about government supported, like North Korea. So the Lazarus group, they are constantly having cases with the crypto. If you heard about AXA Infinity case last year, $600 million was hacked, and we worked with them to try also to get that asset. And this was the Lazarus group for North Korea, and it went to different mixers, but I cannot tell you everything about what we can offer, but I will give you one example. You can consider us like F-35 fighter jet. When America want to sell it, they will never give it to you with the same speed. It will not carry the same missile. So what we offer to the government is very way advanced. It comes in terms of tracing crypto asset privacy, geolocation, and where it has been. But for you, you don't need all of those things. You need only to get the result, and we give you the result within seconds. But yes, there are different ways that they can use, and we're always updating the team with the new technology, with the new ways to try to fight it.
Hello, this is Shaima Abdelaziz. I'm the CEO of GoChat 24/7. We work in AI. It's not much of a question as much as just a comment about your question and your discussion about the AI tools used to replace humans. I believe, as my expertise and even my philosophy as a human, this can never happen. We were created to rule this planet, to use all the resources and all the tools that are in our disposal to elevate and to evolve. Okay, so whatever the AI models that are generated right now and will be generated in the future, near or far, humans always tend to elevate above that and use these tools and do much more sophisticated jobs, whether it is compliance, whether it is going to space, whatever it is, this is what will happen. So AI, for people who are afraid of using AI generative tools, they're just tools. At the end of the day, we are the ones who manage them. It's like yesterday during the AI session, they said actually that a few years back there was no Excel files. People used to use the calculator to do some calculations that are much easier now, and Excel never replaced any human, and never will AI generative models do the same. So I believe we'll just do much more sophisticated jobs. Everything will elevate above that, and this is how it will go. That's it. Thank you.
Absolutely, totally agree. It's a tool, just like any other tool, and I think it's up to us just to understand that it's something that we have to use and not rely on 100%. And this is why the human factor basically needs to be able to feed. And this is why even today, with so much artificial intelligence and machine learning that we have, so many tools that we have, it's even more important for us as humans to be more educated, to be more informed. Because if we get complacent, and I'm talking about, from as in any kind of an environment, if we get complacent and start depending and allowing these tools to make the decisions, then I think this is going to be catastrophic, and it's kind of destroy whatever was built over the past years in regards to fintech, and in regards to RegTech, and in regards to moving towards a kind of a seamless integration, collaboration between technology and the human factor. But it's going to be it's very interesting. We live in interesting times, which is a blessing, as the Chinese say. May you live in interesting times. So I think this is what we're going through. Yeah, I mean, it was comprehensible just a few years ago in the things that we can do with ChatGPT, the things that we can do, and this is the things that are accessible to everyone. So I mean, when it comes to other areas, especially for compliance, but on the other side of that, from the part of criminals as well, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. And I wish that we had more time to talk about deep fakes and talk about other very interesting challenges that are faced. Unfortunately, we don't. So I would like to thank you very much for your participation tonight, and wish you well for the rest of the day, and also to thank our wonderful panel for this very interesting conversation. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Should take